from Abbey Field at Petaluma High School. It's the Petaluma Trojans and the Vintage Crushers. It's varsity baseball on a beautiful Friday afternoon as the Trojans try to turn around a two-game losing streak and get back on track in the Vine Valley Athletic League. And a very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Griffin Epstein, joining you here on a Sunsplash Friday afternoon on what should be an excellent game of baseball between the Crushers and the Trojans. Petaluma had high expectations going into this year with an excellent mix of experience at the top and some terrific young talent, and it really came to fruition after a couple games. The Trojans won 7 games in a row, went into a first-place tie in VVAL, and you wondered when was the next time this team would lose again. But it all come crashing to a halt the last 2 weeks as the Trojans fell here to first place in league undefeated Sonoma Valley last Thursday here in a game where nothing went right. And then on Wednesday, in a game where we thought Petaluma would turn it around against Justin Siena, the second worst team in VVAL, the Trojans were stunned with a comeback, 3-run comeback victory for the Braves, topped off by a walk-off hit in the 7th inning. And because of that, Petaluma 3-2 at VVAL. They're right in the thick of things in a pack with a lot of teams, everyone currently chasing Sonoma Valley, who's 4-1. And for the Crushers as well at 2-3, this game very important for the league standings, but is also very important for Petaluma as they look over the course of their season. They really need a victory here today to turn around a rough patch in their year and get back on their winning ways like they did early in this year, especially as they have the Boris tournament coming up next week. For the Crushers, they're 2-3 in VVAL, 5-7 overall, and they lost a tight one to American Canyon on Wednesday, but this team can play with anyone. They beat Casa Grande last Friday. They've played an exceptional non-league schedule. They are even younger than Petaluma, but they have a lot of talent and an exceptional pitcher, and it is not going to be easy for the Trojans if they want to return to their winning ways here today at Abbey Field. Couple minutes, just seconds away from the Trojans taking the field. We have a small crowd here on this Friday afternoon. The temperature is just a tick over 70. There's a light breeze blowing from third base towards first, and it should be a perfect day for baseball. So much rain in the last couple weeks, but that will not be an issue this afternoon, as it will be a great day of baseball. Petaluma 7-4 overall in VVAL, 4-2. And the Trojans had victories over Casa Grande, Napa twice, and American Canyon in league before they've lost their last 2 games. Vintage Crushers with manager Rich Anderson in his 9th season. Mentioned they are 5-7 overall, and they have also in a little bit of a rough patch in their season as well. They've dropped 3 out of their last 4. Their one victory, impressive, last Friday here, or a Thursday ago. Back here in Petaluma, they beat Casa 5-4. They're coming off a 16-10 loss to American Canyon on Wednesday in Napa. The Crushers have played the likes of Oak Ridge, Maria Carrillo, Annalee, Redwood, some really good teams in their non-conference. So even though they do have a losing record, the record a little bit deceiving, they have tested themselves early. Get into some of their top players. They've got a couple senior leaders and some really young talent, especially the sophomores, just like Petaluma. So in a lot of ways, these teams are mirror images of each other. But the Trojans so far have been the one that's been able to piece together more wins early in their season. For both teams as well, Division II VVAL, this game will go a long way towards deciding where these teams are seated in the Vine Valley Athletic League. Both teams certainly have hopes of making a run there. Petaluma currently projected as a 5 seed. And they were all the way up as a 2 seed recently before their 2-game losing streak has dropped them back. And the Trojans are hoping that this afternoon can be different as Petaluma is getting ready to take the field. Julian Garahan will be on the mound for Petaluma. But before that, players come out. We are going to have the national anthem here from Abbey Field. So here is the national anthem, and then after that we'll be ready to play baseball. Ready for baseball on this Friday afternoon. And a vital game for both teams. This is the halfway point in the Vine Valley Athletic League schedule. The Trojans will have faced every single team in the league after playing Vintage today, as will the Crushers, and both teams have tournaments coming up in the near future. For the Trojans, next week they will be in Sacramento for the prestigious Scott Boras tournament at Sacramento State, deemed maybe the top tournament in all of Northern California. The second year the Trojans have been in that, so they're going to be really tested next week. And they badly want to go into that on a high note. You do not want to go into the Boras tournament in a slump like they currently are, or they could be embarrassed. They went 2-2 there last year, so certainly high hopes for an even better performance this year. Vintage has a game tomorrow in Sacramento, as they're going to be playing at the Christian Brothers tournament, so they are also looking to get back on the right track, as they've lost 3 of their last 4. Julian Garahan is on the mound this afternoon for Petaluma. The sophomore is 2-0 on the season with a 1.22 ERA and 6 appearances, 23 innings pitched. This is his 4th start of the season, and he's had some good ones so far. He pitched very well against Marin Catholic in a game that Petaluma did lose, but he only gave up 1 run in that one. And pitched also against Redwood in a 4-3 victory for the Trojans. And our first baseball live stream of the season, he was brilliant against Casa Grande. He didn't start that game, came in the 3rd inning, shut down the Gauchos, no runs over 5 innings, and got the win in that one. 13 strikeouts over the course of the year, and opponents are only reaching base against them 28.7% of the time. Scoreboard's in your top left-hand corner as we get underway, 7 innings of baseball. Number 19, Ethan Hammerlin, the junior, will dig in to start for Rich Anderson's Crushers out of Napa. These teams will play again in the last game of the VVAL season in May. This one in April, underway, as that one's low. Jack Gallagher, as always, has the start for Petaluma at catcher, the Trojan senior captain. Joe Brown at 3rd for Petaluma. Nico Bertolucci once again gets the start at short for the Trojans. This one is popped up in the air, and speaking of Joe Brown, he will make the catch. 1 down in the top of the 1st. Round out the rest of the infield for Petaluma. Sam Jacobs at 2nd for Petaluma. And a little bit of a change at first for the Trojans. Garrett Lewis playing first. Sam Brown is in uniform, but he was limping before the game, dealing with a little bit of an injury. We'll see if he comes in to pinch hit later today. That one misses high from Garahan. Max Phipps digging in for the Crushers. The 1-0 from Garahan. Out the bottom of the strike zone. Outfield for the Trojans, very young. Mark Wolbert, the sophomore, in center. It's England in right. And Ochoa in left today. As that one catches the bottom of the strike zone, again, 1-2. Phipps, one of the leaders on this young vintage squad, the senior outfielder. Staring in on the 1-2. Off speed, just missed. Even Phipps almost thought he'd struck out, but he'll get a mulligan. Phipps batting .259 on the year with 8 runs, a .444 on base percentage. This one is slice foul. Nice piece of work by Phipps just to stay alive. 5'7", 170-pound senior. Is 4 years on varsity. Not many get to say that. And Coach Rich Anderson of the Crushers calls him their vocal leader. Ground ball down the line. Foul again. Phipps battling. Want to get Garahan's pitch count up early. The Trojans' weak spot is the lack of a bullpen. Not a lot of depth there. That just misses high. Phipps has worked it to 3-2. It's a surprisingly small crowd for a beautiful Friday afternoon. Attendance numbers probably just over 100. With the vintage fans, a lot of them have made the long trek. About an hour's journey west from Napa. Payoff pitch catches the outside corner, and Phipps goes down. Nice piece of work by Garahan to battle there. 2 down. Davide Magato will dig in, the sophomore, part of this talented youth on this vintage squad. 13 returners out of 24 players on the Crushers, but a lot of these sophomores have been getting a lot of playing time over the course of the season for them. So that misses high. It's very similar to Petaluma, mixing that talented leadership and someone like Phipps. And for Petaluma, that would be Gallagher with young sophomores that are going to be stars, no doubt. This one is hit hard down the third baseline and fair, and this could be extra bases for Magato. He will have a double standing up. Excellent piece of hitting by Davide Magato, as Italian as it sounds. And he laces a sweet double, and Garahan will have to work out at the stretch for the first time today. Troy Gisletta, another one of those seniors for the Crushers. Bats fourth, .222 batting average on the season. As Garahan takes a look behind him. And the off speed in there for a first pitch strike. The Crushers can hit the baseball, there's no doubt about that. They put 10 runs on the board in a 16-10 loss to American Canyon on Wednesday. What a wild game that was in East Napa. Hard hit ball into left, and this will fall for a base hit. Here comes Magato coming home. There will be no throw, and the Crushers are on the board, 1-0. An RBI single by Gisletta, and the Crushers have struck first. Garahan not used to giving up runs, especially early. The Crushers patient, and after an exceptional at-bat from Phipps, his patience paid off and has rewarded some of these later hitters for the Crushers to find some pitches they've liked. Harrison Kawagura, check swing. Big junior infielder. He's hit a home run this year, the only one on the Crushers to do so. Trying to keep this Crusher rally going here in the first. 2 outs, nobody on. 2 straight hits. Made it 1-0, popped high up into the air. Jacobs makes the catch over at second as he treads onto the outfield grass. And the side is retired, but the Crushers strike for one on the Gisletta RBI single. And they lead 1-0 after the top half of the first. Well, a good start for Vintage. After one, they were patient there and found some pitches to hit off Garaham, which has been very hard. The Trojans have really relied on their pitching this season. They've done an excellent job throughout the year pitching, and even though the Trojans' hitting has been a lot worse than last year, it's been the young pitchers in Garaham and Ochoa that have helped the Trojans really find a lot of success, but it hasn't been as great the last two games for Petaluma, and already an early run given up here has to be concerning if you're the manager of the Trojans, Jim Salvatella, that your pitching is not maybe where it was early in this season. But it's going to put the onus on the hitting for Petaluma, something that's been very up and down, but should be doable today against a Vintage team that's coming off giving 15 runs to American Canyon on Wednesday. It was a wild game, as we said. American Canyon, 16 runs, I should say. The Wolves had 17 hits against the Crushers, and they sent 53 hitters to the plate. Vintage used 6 pitchers in that game to get out of it. So not only that, but their bullpen is going to be very tired, and we'll see if the Trojans can take advantage of that. Crushers ace will start today for Vintage. Eli Wood, the 6'1", 197-pound senior, 3-year varsity player. He's 3-1 on the season with a 1.18 ERA in 5 appearances, and this is his 4th game started of the season. As Mark Wolbert digs in to lead things off for Petaluma. What a revelation Wolbert has been early in the year for Petaluma, both fielding, hitting, and even pitching. The sophomore has done it all. He fouls that off. Won't be easy against Wood, by far the best pitcher on the Crushers. In 23.2 innings pitched, he is only allowed 7 hits. And there's hit number 8 as Wolbert lines it past the shortstop, and he's on with a leadoff base hit. The fireworks continue for Mark Wolbert as he records his 12th hit of the season. The Trojans didn't record a hit against Justin Siena on Wednesday all the way to the 5th inning. They don't have to worry about that early here. Joe Brown digs in with 1 out and nobody on, and the Trojans trailing 1-0. The freshman takes high. Coming into today, opposing pitchers had only a .088 batting percentage against Wood. Brown is tagged out at first. An awkward-looking play, high bouncer towards third. A nice play by the first baseman for the Crushers, and Ian Avalos, to tag out Brown. Wolbert advances to second on the fielder's choice. So Sam Brown digs in for Petaluma with 1 out, and Wolbert at second as the Trojans trying to tie things up here. Brown hoping to turn around what's been a disappointing year so far as a junior. Only hitting 161 on the year after he hit over 400 last year. He's just really been in a slump most of the year. Catches the bottom of the strike zone. A lot of the Trojans just started really slowly with the bats and the lack of practice with all the rain. Kind of to be expected, but most Petaluma hitters have been able to get out of it, found some games to hit in, and for Brown it just hasn't come yet. Only 5 hits on the year. Wolbert dives back to second. Wolbert has some speed too. Should score on any medium base hit. 4 stolen bases on the year for Wolbert, which leads the team. Big swing foul. 0-2, Brown in the hole. There's no doubt he has the power. Last year, 31 hits, 3 home runs, and a .623 slugging percentage. All of that has been absent this year for the elder junior. The 0-2 from Wood. Again, fouled off. That's what you got to do if you're in a slump. If you're just not seeing the ball well, it's looking like a ping pong ball. It's so small. Just got to foul things off and wait till you see a pitch you like. Start stringing hits together. It grows from a ping pong ball to a watermelon. Another 0-2. Ground ball to second. Will not be an easy play. Well done there to get the out. 2 down. So Wolbert goes to third. And Jack Gallagher, the Trojans' hottest hitter, in a big spot here trying to tie things up for Petaluma. Gallagher batting .355 on the year, 11 hits. And he's drove in 7 so far. Tied for first in hits, the senior captain. Takes low from Wood. Petaluma trying to reverse a 2-game losing streak that broke a 7-game win streak. The Trojans are 7-4 overall on the season. Gallagher swings foul. 6'1", 180-pound senior catcher. Headed to Chico State next year to play baseball. Division I. Division II, I should say. Off speed. That is a pro pitch from Wood. And it puts Gallagher in the hole, 1-2. Wood has the capability to really get Petaluma off balance. Trojans need to strike early. That misses low. Gallagher drove in 13 last year on 22 hits. Part of an exceptional junior campaign. Settled in as everyday catcher. This one is popped up. And the catch is made at second. The side is retired. Wolbert leads off with the base hit. Advances all the way to third, but Petaluma unable to do anything with it. They strand 1-on-1 hit, no runs. And we move on to the second. It's the Crushers 1, the Trojans nothing. So the Trojans got an early base hit off Wood, which was good news as Wolbert stays hot. But the Trojans' big hitters struggled so much this year and unable again to do anything with runners on scoring position. Petaluma has stranded a lot of runners so far this year. They have left 117 runners on base so far this year. They're not halfway through their schedule, and last year they stranded about 300, so they're likely going to surpass that. And Petaluma's really struggled, especially with runners in scoring position, to scrape runs across, and especially in their 2-game losing streak they've had the last 2 days with Justin Sienna and Sonoma Valley. The Trojans are going to have to find today a way today against an exceptional pitcher in Wood to score some runs with 2 outs with a runner at first or second, because that is the only way they're going to really get going. If Wood gets into a rhythm, it could be lights out for them. He's pitched some gems so far this year for Vintage. He didn't pitch on Wednesday in the disastrous game for Vintage pitchers. They gave up 16 runs to American Canyon. Garahan will settle in for his second inning of work after giving up 1 run in the first. Doesn't have a loss so far this year. He's really only had 1 bad outing. Came in a blown save loss in the second game of the season. And besides that, Garahan has been dominant as a first-year varsity pitcher. Zach Hosen to lead things off for Vintage here in the second. The leading hitter on the Crushers in terms of batting average at .333. He reaches base 41.7% of the time. Big swing and a miss. Some heat from Garahan. Garahan uses that height so well to his advantage. Get that high center of gravity really bear down on the hitter. He's quickly put Hosen in an 0-2 hole. Appreciate everyone tuning in on this Friday afternoon. Feel free to leave any comments in our live chat. Get to them as soon as possible. Just misses outside. Can like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Got plenty more baseball and softball live streams coming up as we reach the second half of the year. Both baseball and softball in the heat of the league pennant race. It should be a lot of fun over the next 4 weeks. The pennant race stretches into early May. Mrs. High's vintage hitters are patient. Vintage batting .362 on base percentage this year. .252 batting average. Off speed, that will K up Hosen, 1 down. Nice pinpoint placement from Garahan to catch the outside corner. Abelos, the first baseman for the Crushers, will bat second here in the second. Abelos had a good game on Wednesday. Was 2 for 3 with an RBI and came around to score in the 16-10 loss for Vintage. Jammed foul. Abelos, sophomore, batting .261 on the year. Time is called. Garahan will try again as he gives a smile to his catcher, Jack Gallagher. Garahan to Gallagher and a big swing and a miss in the middle. Quickly 0-2. Garahan looking a little bit more comfortable so far in this second, though the first was going along swimmingly for the first 2 batters. Ground ball to Brown. The long throw from the hot corner. In time, 2 down. The Crushers at 2-3 in VVAL. A win today would put them back to 500 in league. And it's a very tight league standings. We reach the halfway point. Sonoma at 5-1, Petaluma at 4-2, American Canyon at 3-2. This one is fouled off by Jake Whipple. Casa 3-4, and Vintage and Justin Siena at the moment tied for 6 at 2-3. Really no one except for Napa at 1-5 is out of it early. Sonoma, though, seems hard to beat. Only Casa's beaten them so far. That was last week. Catches the outside corner. 0-2 to Whipple. Goes down low to get it, and it's Jacobs again, calling everyone off and making the catch. Garahan gives a clap. That was how you finish it with 2 outs and nobody on, not like the first inning. Side is retired, no hits, no runs, and nobody stranded. We head to the bottom of the second. It is 1-0 Vintage. Much better performance that time from Garahan in the top of the second. We'll see if Trojan Mats can get going in the bottom of the second. Petaluma doesn't play Sonoma again until May. Every game really so vital in the Vine Valley Athletic League if they want a league pennant. Won SCL so easily last year. It was kind of a joke. They didn't have a true competitor in the Sonoma County League last year. But I think it's really been a big benefit for this team to have day in and day out exceptional competition top to bottom. I think Petaluma went to Justin Siena on Wednesday really expecting that they could tear through the Braves. Wouldn't be an issue in Napa against one of the worst teams in the VVAL, and the Trojans suddenly got into a dogfight with Justin Siena, weren't prepared, and lost to the Braves on a walk-off hit in the 7th, and where they didn't hit well, didn't bring their bats to Napa. They, I think at this point, now understand every game, no matter what, is going to be a dogfight the rest of the way, especially because Petaluma has played Napa twice already this season. There is no other bad team in the Vine Valley Athletic League. does leave some room for margin for error, at least for Petaluma, if Sonoma Valley is to falter again. The Dragons have beaten Casa once, lost to Casa once, but, well, they have not played American Canyon yet. They're playing that tonight. No, not playing that tonight. Playing that next week. So that will be an interesting one, but all the teams the second time a go around into mid-May to decide the VVAL pennant. Garrett Lewis to lead things off the bottom of the second. He's facing vintage ace Eli Wood. On Wednesday, Petaluma fell to Justin Siena 4-3. They didn't score, though they got two runners on in the first, as Lewis has a high pop-up way back in left to make the catch just a few steps from the warning track, one down. Trojans got 2 on with nobody out in the first, didn't score. They never got a hit until the 6th. They exploded in that inning. 3 runs in the 6th to go up 3-1. And Mark Wolbert, who pitched, went pretty well. Got a couple runners on in the 6th. Took him out. Brought in Gavin Ochoa, as Jacobs takes the first pitch low. Brought in Ochoa, who's the Trojan ace, out of the bullpen. Interesting decision by manager Salvatella. And that really blew up in his face. He gave up 2 runs in that inning. They kept Ochoa out there in the 7th. Loaded the bases, nobody out. Line drive, base hit into left. Walked things off for the Braves to get a 4-3 victory. I think you question the decision by Salvatella. Why would you bring your ace out when he had only started games so far this season? But the issue is you didn't have a lot of depth, and you were put Garahan in position to start this game. There's not really another reliable reliever out of the bullpen for Petaluma. The Trojans are really a 3-man rotation. Ochoa and Garahan start. And Wolbert can either start or come from the bullpen, as can Garahan. It's the first strike to Jacobs. He still had 2-1. Only other pitchers so far this year for Petaluma is Zarco, who had 1 outing, and Gehring, who had 1 outing. I don't think Salvatella trusts either of them. The storyline to watch over the duration of the season. 3-2 to the senior Jacobs. Hard lined into center. Center and left fielder convening, and the catch is made in left. Coming way over to get that. And nice play. 2 down. Mario Zarco digs in, DHing today for Petaluma. Started the season at third base. So he takes the first pitch low, but was really struggling at the hot corner to field it. It was a liability there. 6 errors, only a 73% fielding percentage. Ground ball right back to Wood. 1, 2, 3 inning. No problem for Eli Wood in the second as the Trojans go down easily. And we move on to the third inning. Vintage leading 1-0 here early from Abbey Field. So good start for the Crushers so far. Both teams coming off losses. Both teams in bad stretches of their season. You knew a start here would be so important for both squads, and so far, nice job by Vintage. They've the team that's come out with more energy and looked a little bit more focused. The Trojans, how do you get this focus back? How do you get the 7-game win streak back? You're around this team when they were winning. They really just exuded confidence. The team chemistry was exceptional, and this was a team that felt like they couldn't lose. As soon as that balloon essentially was burst with the first loss, though, can they pick themselves back up again? How do you deal with adversity? And that is kind of what you're questioning now if you're a Petaluma fan. Vintage, they've already suffered a lot of close losses, played some good teams this year. They're no stranger to adversity, picking themselves back up and beating some good teams. They beat Casa Grande last week here in Petaluma. And it helps that the Crushers have got their ace on the mound in Wood so far. They definitely trust and has a couple victories already for them on the year. Garahan out for his third inning of work after a nice 1-2-3 seconds. The first inning, 2 out, nobody on, but a double lined by Magoto, and then an RBI single by Gisletta. That is where we stand, 1-0. First pitch high to Alex Deshod, batting .286 on the year, sophomore. Another one of these sophomores starting for the Crushers. Caught the inside corner. Crushers were 12-14 last year, 7-8 overall in a very good Monticello Empire League. And just narrowly squeezed into the San Joaquin section playoffs as the 16 seed. And this is high. They had Vacaville in the Monticello Empire League, top 20 team in the state. Petaluma actually saw them earlier in the season and defeated them. Big swing, popped up in the air into left. Going back and making the catch is Brown. 1 down. So Sam Brown in the outfield today in left. Trying to add some experience to an otherwise young outfield. Everyone else graduated from last year. The Trojans with only 6 returners on this team and only 6 seniors. Along with 6 underclassmen, including all 3 of their pitchers. Hard line drive to third off the glove of Brown. This should be 2 as it rolls all the way to the fence. And it will be a lucky double for Ethan Hammerlin in his second at bat. Ripped it to third. Brown thought he had a web gem, but just couldn't get there in time as it hit the outside webbing of his glove and skipped away from him for an extra base for Hammerlin. 2 outs, but now the Crushers with another runner in scoring position. And Max Phipps, who had an exceptional at bat in the first, trying to turn that into a base hit. Senior captain hard to get out, that's for certain, as he takes low. Gorgeous day here at Abbey Field. Not a cloud in the sky, light breeze, little over 70, dragonflies fluttering around. It finally really feels like spring. All this rain in the Bay Area. It's in there for a strike. The stands have slowly filled up over the course of the afternoon. Enjoying a great day for baseball. Garahan shakes it off from his catcher, agrees on try 3. Pitch is low, it skips into the glove of Gallagher. Nice stop by the senior catcher, who's not only the floor general for Petaluma, calling the pitches, leading the signals, but exceptional defender, a cannon of an arm. Ground ball. Diving play past the shortstop, Bertolucci. Brown did kind of a nice job interrupting Hammerlin's move at third. He stops there, and runners are on the corners. Nice patience by Phipps. And Davide Magato digs in already with his 10th hit of the season. And he came around to score his 10th run of the season. He leads the Crushers in that total. Garahan working in trouble again. Low liner, it gets away from Gallagher. Here comes Hemmerlin. The toss over the head of Garahan, and it is 2-0. The wild pitch by Garahan, and Gallagher unable to handle it. Nice job by Hemmerlin to score. And Phipps advances to second as well. It is 2-0 Vintage. Trojan struggles continuing here early. An angry pitch from Garahan, fouled off by Magato. Same first name as the Texas Tech sharpshooter from Italy. Don't see too many Davides. Shares a name with a recent athletic superstar, Davide, for the Red Raiders. Helped them beat Gonzaga in the Elite Eight. Went to the national championship game before they fell to Virginia on Monday. Davide just trying, or Vintage just trying to help them do a VVAL title. A win today would go a long way towards getting back in the pennant race. The 1-2 from Garahan upcoming as he takes a look back at Phipps at second. Skips it low, and it goes right through the legs of Gallagher, whose afternoon is getting worse. Phipps goes to third. A sac fly will score him, and there's still only one out. Pop fly foul. That did not sound good. You never park your car anywhere near the baseball diamond on a baseball game. Sounds like some paint might have took some beating. A nice Toyota Camry. Chopper to third. Brown will look back. Phipps at third. That's an exceptional piece of work by the freshman Joe Brown to get the out and prevent the run from scoring. Brown's only a freshman, but he feels like a Major League Baseball player out there. And he did that with calmness, exactly how the coach tells you to draw it up. 2 down. Garahan can work his way out of this with only giving up 1 run. That would absolutely be a victory. A big swing and a miss by Eli Wood. Trying to help himself out. Scoring some more runs to support himself on the mound. Fouled off by Wood, out of play. Fouled off, and look out. The Vintage dugout. A leaping attempts by the on-deck batter for the Crushers to get out of the way of that one. 1-2. Just lunging to get it, and somehow Wood got a piece of it by the end of the bat. Goody ordered a bat 38 inches and not 37 because he wouldn't have touched it with the 37. Garahan in control, though, 0-2, and see if he can get Wood to chase again. Instead, Wood lines a high liner. Brown looking up, looking back. See you tomorrow. It's gone. A 2-run shot for Eli Wood. The Crushers fans on their feet as Wood hits his first home run of his career. 3 years on varsity. What a moment for him. The Crusher dugout is pumped up. Garahan, 2 outs, 0-2. And instead, he gave Wood an exceptional pitch to hit. And Wood lined it a good 325 over the left field fence. That one fouled. Out of play by Harrison Koharga, who until today had the only home run for Vintage. No longer. 4-0 Crushers. They've put up a 3 spot here in the top of the third. And Petaluma trails by more runs than they've trailed in any game so far this season. That bounces low, with the exception of their 6-3 loss to Sonoma Valley. The Trojans trying to avoid dropping their 3rd straight game, and they would be in deep trouble if they want a league pennant. If this one goes south. Ground ball past Bertolucci at short. Koharga keeps the line moving with a base hit. These Trojan fielders have gone so close to making some plays, but they just cannot come up with it. They're not errors, but they just can't come up with the spectacular, even the above routine plays. Trojans have 23 errors as a team so far this year. Not great fielding-wise. With a lot of youth around the diamond, especially fielding. It's shown. This one is popped up. I was a little nervous about that one, right? By me. But it just landed on the other side of the fence. Oh, thank you. The Vintage fans tell me they have my protection. Thank goodness. I was not a good outfielder back in my Little League days, so felt that lump in my stomach again. The wind just pushed it back on the other side. Gallagher wasn't able to run it down either. Garahan, quick throw back to first, gets away from Lewis, but not far enough for Koharga to go anywhere. Remember back in my Little League days, trying out, and they have the big machine sending fly balls out into the outfield. They sent 3 to me, and I didn't catch one of them. Without a mitt, and with thousands of dollars around me, I was not feeling good. That catches the bottom of the strike zone, 0-2. Trojans came into today with their pitchers a 1.81 earned run average. 4 runs given up and not even 3 innings gone through. And this is the worst pitching appearance so far for Garahan of the season. He himself had a 1.22 ERA, best on Petaluma. Most runs the Trojans have given up all season is 6, and their loss to Sonoma Valley. Misses high. Here comes the runner stealing. Koharga is out by a long shot, too. Nice job by Gallagher to throw out the runner, and mercifully the inning comes to a close, but not before a pass ball, a run scores, and then Eli Wood lines a massive shot over the left field fence to add 2 more, and the Crushers put up 3 in the top of the third, and they lead 4-0 over the Trojans as we head to the bottom of the third. An exceptional piece of hitting by the Crushers, and this team that put up 10 runs on Wednesday against American Canyon, even in a loss. Clearly confident hitting the baseball. They put up 6 runs against Casa Grande last week, and against an exceptional pitcher in Garahan, they are having no issues. And we talked about in the open, if the Petaluma pitchers weren't up to their strongest performance, you had to be worried about this team because they have really struggled to hit the baseball over the course of the season. This team has relied day in and day out on exceptional pitching to get them victories, and that's how they rode this to a 7-game win streak. They haven't scored yet today, and they only have 1 hit by Mark Wolbert. They're going to have to look for some answers and claw back here if they want to get a victory. Also not used to playing behind and dealing with this adversity. They've just trailed so little for much of this season. They are clearly in a slump right now. And is this the next 4 innings, the moment they break out of it, or the moment that it falls deeper for them? Trojans will be in Sacramento all next week for the Boris Classic at Sac State. They're going to open up against Pleasant Valley of Chico, one of the top 100 teams in the state. Basically, everyone they're going to play there is going to be a powerhouse. As Zach Clark pops up the first pitch into foul territory, out of play. Trojans, they go into the Boris with no confidence. You have to be worried about their prospects and how much that could hurt them. You don't want to go 1-3, 0-4. Not only is it bad for your overall record, bad for NCS, just bad for your psyche, but you perform poorly in the Boris, you're not welcome back normally. Clark fouls this one off, and again out of play down the first base line. Trojans will see Archbishop Mitty, who's ranked number 3 in the state, or Davis High, in the second round of the tourney, as Clark is K'd up. Bertolucci strides up, the lanky sophomore, and he's been doing a lot of diving at short and watching a lot of balls get by him so far. Tries to lay it on a bunt, then pulls it back. 1-0, Eli Wood in control. He has retired 7 hitters in a row. And his control has been excellent, too. This one lined right to third, and the catch is made. Hard hit ball, but an exceptional job by David Imagato. Scored the first run for the Crushers and makes a nice catch there. 2 down. So back to the top of the order, and Wolbert. Can the Trojans get anything going with their bats? Off speed, Wolbert fouls it off. I think he actually fouled it off his foot. He's striding around trying to walk it off. Younger brother of Justin Wolbert, who was a member of the varsity baseball team 2 years ago, but 2-year starting quarterback for the Petaluma football team. Power forward on the Trojan basketball team. Wolbert's following in his brother's very athletic footsteps, but the way Wolbert has shined on the baseball diamond, he might outsign him in the next 3 years. Only a sophomore. 5'11", 165 pounds, and averaging .306 from the plate, and reaching base about 40% of the time with 11 hits. 1-1 from Wood to Wolbert. Swung on and just fouled off. 1-2. Wolbert was called up for the SCL tournament last year in the NCS playoffs, along with Bertolucci and Zarco, to get that playing experience at the big level. That can really pay off. You see those players blossom. Gallagher was one of those a year before, got called up. Certainly will likely see some good JV players at the end of the year called up for that. JV team is on a roll of late for the Trojans, 4 of 1 in league, 6-5-1 overall. The freshman team yet to lose in VVAL. That one skips low from Wood, and it's a full count. Overall freshman team coached by Brooks Drysdale, 9-5. JV team coached by Brian Feeney, which is in Napa, facing Vintage right now, 6-5-1. Freshman team plays tomorrow. Beat Drake yesterday in Marin. Wolbert chops this one towards second. And another 3-up, 3-down inning. Exceptional job by Wood. He has worked things around. Retired 10 in a row. And the Trojan bats are in another slump. On to the 4th inning we go. It's the Vintage Crushers 4, the Petaluma Trojans nothing. Well, the Trojan struggles continue with the bat here as we move on to the 4th inning. Struggles continue for Petaluma, but you got to keep your head up now for the fielders and for Garahan. The Trojans cannot afford to allow any more runs if they have any hope of completing a comeback this afternoon, especially the way they're hitting right now. You can't have a lot of confidence in your bats, but 4 runs isn't insurmountable, but it certainly could get ugly soon if the Trojans don't keep their heads up, stay focused here on this Friday afternoon, and start looking forward to what lies ahead for them, which is the second half of VVAL and the Boris tournament. As we mentioned, the Saltmore Garahan has had such a great season, so focused, so naturally talented, but he's had a rough afternoon. Body language so important, staying mentally strong as a pitcher. We'll see if he can battle through that all. Zach Josen will lead things off in the 4th for the Crushers. One of the 9 seniors in this Crusher team that has exploded today for 4 runs. A 2-run shot, couple base hits. A team that over the course of the year hasn't hit well, but they're hot lately. Hosen is nipped on the shoulder, it looked like. Maybe the elbow. And just like that, the leadoff runner is on, and Garahan, seeing in his face, a little bit frustrated right now. Avalos will come on in, and we are going to see some action in the bullpen. Wolbert worked pretty hard on Wednesday. He might not be available. Dan O'Hagan is starting to get loose for Petaluma. The righty has not pitched all year long so far, and Garahan nearly hit Avalos on the head. Look out. Diving to the dirt was the first baseman to get out of the way. One of the talented sophomores on Vintage. Swung on and fouled. Just missed it. 1-1. Trojans only lost 2 games in the league last year on the way to an SCL title. It was a much easier league. A lot of teams you could beat up on. Not this year. A 1-1 from Garahan. Avalos check swing. This is fair territory as Jacobs makes the basket catch. And then first out for Garahan, badly needed. Jake Whipple digs in for Vintage with 1 on and 1 out. Crushers have been a consistent squad this decade under Rich Anderson. He's been their manager since 2011 as this ball is fair. Just inside the foul line. Look out. All the way to the fence. Here comes 1 run in to score. It is 5-0. A ripped RBI double by Whipple, and Josen scores. That one just was perfectly nestled in inside the foul line, past the third base bag, and it is 5-0. Here comes manager Salvatella for Petaluma. Garahan has just not had his stuff at all today. There have been pitches to hit. The Vintage batters have been keyed in. We'll see if that will do it. O'Hagan is still getting loose in the bullpen for Petaluma. The reliever hasn't pitched all year long, but the Trojans need him at this point. It appears they're not going to pull Garahan yet. A long conversation here with him and the catcher, and I think if you're Salvatella, O'Hagan likely can't go the next 3 innings. You need Garahan to hopefully get a couple more outs. It's the manager, or the ump, coming to break things up. Well, apparently it was stalling after all that. Garahan's day is done. Some sad clapping from the Trojan fans. His worst start of the season. He's pitched so well, but not a good afternoon for the sophomore Dan O'Hagan, the junior, in trying to stop the bleeding for Petaluma as they trail 5-0 here in the top of the 4th. O'Hagan, 6'2", 220-pound junior and JV pitcher, part of this youth for Petaluma with pitching. It came into this year with only one pitcher with any varsity experience at all in Garrett Gehring, and he only had one appearance last year as a varsity pitcher. They lost all 3 starters from last year. We're expecting to have Nick Sembita back, but he got a scholarship to play football, decided not to come out for baseball. And Nick Andraken and Blake Burwer, their top 2 pitchers last year, both graduated. So Petaluma, they really started anew pitching-wise, and if these 3 pitchers for the Trojans, any of them are having issues. Ochoa had a really rough day on Wednesday. Now Garahan a poor day today. Things could get really rough for Petaluma. They have so much young talent and they have experience, but this right now is showing how things can go sideways with the way this team is built, the way this team is made. The question is, can Petaluma keep its head up? Can they keep on fighting in this game? And can they keep things going forward in their season? No league games next week with the Boris Tournament and Napa schools on spring break. Their next league game will be at American Canyon on the 26th, which the Trojans really had an easy time with the Wolves here, which was their 7th straight victory, an 8-1 victory 2 weeks ago. Gavin Ochoa pitched a gem in that one, but American Canyon 3-2, that won't be a gimme. Petaluma is going to need to stay focused at the Boris and then in league and find a way with their pitching. O'Hagan's first pitch is lined to left, a base hit. Here comes another run to score. Brown mishandles the throw in at third, and going over to second is Dizod. Alex Dizod, the RBI base hit, and then advances to second on the throw in that Brown mishandled, and seemingly nothing going right for Petaluma. Hard with O'Hagan, had to warm up pretty quickly to get ready. Hasn't ever pitched on the varsity level before, and his first pitch crushed into left. Trojan fielding has not helped today. That misses low. Ethan Hammerlin, top of the order now, again for Vintage. Hammerlin's 1 for 2 today and came around to score in the 3rd. O'Hagan misses low, trying to shake things out from the shoulders and find some control. That misses high. Either O'Hagan was not ready or he's feeling the nerves right now. Gallagher signaling for him to calm down. 6'2", 220-pound junior. Can bring a lot of heat. That misses low. That was not a good-looking at-bat for O'Hagan. Some concern from the Trojan manager, Coach Salvatella, in the dugout. 1-on-1 out. And the heart of the order, some dangerous hitters coming through now for the Crushers, starting with Max Phipps. That misses 2 on, I should say. A runner at second as well. This could get ugly if O'Hagan can't work around this. Mercy roll is in effect starting this inning if we get to 10 runs. Vintage has already scored as many runs as anyone this year, as O'Hagan throws his first strike in 6 pitches. 1-1. A tough situation to be thrown in when you've never pitched at the varsity level. A lot of pressure on him to stop the bleeding. That one had a little too much air on it, and O'Hagan just hasn't looked comfortable yet. He's shaking his shoulders a lot, licking his fingers a lot, grimacing. Talked about pitching. It's just so mental. Check swing. Did he go? No. Nice job holding off by Phipps. It's 2-2 to the senior captain for Vintage. The Crushers trying to get back to 500 in league, the halfway point. Off speed, Mitch is low, and that will load the count. 3-2. Misses inside. O'Hagan has walked 2 in a row, and there's no one warming up. It is all on the junior pitcher right now to find some way to get something going. Davide Magato digs in. What a day he's had. A couple nice defensive plays at third. 2 hits. 2 runs. The sophomore has been on fire. O'Hagan tried adding a little extra speed to that one, but it still misses. Nowhere to put him now either. Popped up foul and out of play. It's a gorgeous day here at Abbey Field on the Petaluma High School campus. Temperatures at 70, light wind, not a cloud in the sky. Popped up into right. Here comes the runner to tag. Nice throw from right, but scoring is Dezod. And it is 7-0. The walks moving him from first to third after the RBI. Gallagher gives a signal with runners on the corners, first and third. And Eli Wood, coming off his 2-run shot last inning, back up to plate. Popped up into center. Wolbert under it, makes the catch. 3 more runs put on the board by Vintage. O'Hagan able to get out of it, but a lot more damage, and the Trojans in a heavy hole. They trail 7-0 as we head to the bottom of the 4th. Well, every time we think the afternoon can't get any worse for Petaluma, it just seems to manage to get worse, and it's going to be hard to come back for Petaluma. They've already given up the most runs they've given up all season. Pitching has struggled. They don't have a lot of depth at the moment. Control was an issue for O'Hagan there. He didn't look ready for his big moment, and it has led to a disappointing feeling right now here at the Trojans baseball diamond of where this team is, and clearly just in a rut right now. Hitting, pitching, fielding. This team was a week and a half ago alive and well and thriving, hitting, pitching, fielding, doing all the fundamentals, and right now quiet in the bench when people are batting and just off balance and really struggling out there. And even if they can't come back in this game, you at least have the opportunity here to get some confidence going into the Boris tournament next week in Sacramento, where you'll be spending the whole week with the team, and that's important for bonding. It's not going to be fun for everyone if this team is still down in the dumps by next week. Joe Brown will start things off for Petaluma. The 5'7", 175-pound freshman takes for a first pitch strike. He's batting .200 on the year. the only freshman on this team, the younger brother of Sam Brown. Time is called. Wood has been excellent. Just one hit given up, and that was the only base runner, and it was the first batter of the game. That skips low. Trojans have gotten almost no action on the vintage ace. What already baseball career Brown has had so far. It's only a 15-year-old. He's on the Team USA baseball team, the under 15 team. So that's fouled off. Out of play. 2-1. Gold medal champion. That team went to Panama and won. And in their exhibition games leading up to that tournament, Brown hit .800 against some of the best pitchers across the world. Leads the team in putouts, as that one is a ground ball base hit past the third baseman. The freshman Joe Brown reaches, and finally, after 10 in a row were retired by Wood, Brown stops it. We'll see what the Trojans can do from there. It's a long road back, but they can only do it if they keep on hitting. Before Sam Brown starts it off, though, a meeting at the mound. As Rich Anderson comes to talk to his senior ace. Exceptional job he's done with this Crushers program. They early in the decade had 5 consecutive winning seasons in league. It's only been the last 2 seasons that they have not been able to garner winning records, so they've been close in the exceptional Monticello Empire League. Hoping to turn things around this season, however. Anderson's been coach since 2011, but he was also the coach back before 2007 as well, so he's really been around this vintage program, knows the school, the team, administration, has a style of playing. It can be really effective. They're young, have taken some time to find out a way to win, but clearly right now they know how to. This team has depth as well, too. As Brown fouls the first pitch up, running in center to make the catch. 1 down. Do it at the end of the inning. Do it at the end of the inning. Gallagher digs in with 1 out and 1 on. Trojans just trying to get something. Bounces low. Nice job by the vintage catcher, Sean Pratt, who's not hitting today. Keep it in front of him and not allow Brown to go anywhere. 1-0 to Gallagher. Ripped into left. And that will fall for a base hit. So the Trojans have put 2 hits together in the same inning. And maybe things are starting to rev into action finally for Petaluma. Garrett Lewis. See if he can continue things for the Trojans. The 5'9", 170-pound sophomore. Batting .286 on the year with 6 hits, 3 batted in, 2 runs. 5 walks as well. He reaches 48% of the time, which leads the team. Good man to have. Started as a freshman last year, had an exceptional season, 3 home runs. Just a tick below 400 at .397 batting average. Brown dies back, a little close for comfort. 31 hits last year for Lewis. And he reached 46% of the time. Another talented underclassman that will certainly be playing at the next level. Off speed. Catches the strike zone by Wood, 1-1. Vintage scored once in the first, once in the third, 3 times in the third, a 2-run home run, part of that in the third. That's fouled off by Lewis, 1-2. Before adding 3 more runs last inning to chase Garahan. Brought in O'Hagan, who walked a couple. They added their 7th run on a sac fly. It's been a rough afternoon in all facets so far for the Trojans, if you're just joining us. Ground ball to third. This could be 2. Safe at first is Lewis, but a nice play to get the lead runner at second. We'll put runners on the corners with 2 outs. Sam Jacobs digging in for Petaluma with 2 outs. The Trojans just 1 run would be vital to get that monkey off their back, considering how they've struggled today. Have only been shut out once this season. It was the first game of the year against Drake. 3-0 loss all the way back on February 20th. That misses outside. A late afternoon sun continuing to shine. Wood working through his first trouble of the game. Brown lines one over the third baseman's head. This should be extra bases. Brown will come home to score the first run. Gallagher safely into third, and it's an RBI double for Sam Jacobs. It's 7-1. Finally, the Trojans able to scrape a run across. 2 base hits and then a double by Jacobs. 3rd double of the season by Jacobs, and his exceptional senior year continues. He's batting .333. That's his 12th hit of the season. He leads the team in hits, right along with Gallagher and Wolbert. Zarco called time. They never granted it, but he takes low. .267 batting average for Zarco with 11 hits. He's 0 for 1 today. Sophomore. Takes high. Strong player on the varsity wrestling team, and also is the leading rusher for Petaluma on the JV football team, called up for varsity at the end of the year. Could very much see him as that bruising running back always in Coach Christ's system for the football team. Takes low, and sensing a little bit of struggles from Wood, Pratt comes on out to talk to his senior pitcher and calm him down. Been the first bad inning for Wood, who had retired 10 batters in a row coming into this bottom of the 4th. Zarco with a base hit could score 2 more and get Petaluma right back in this one. 3-0 pitch. Misses high. Zarco walks on 4 pitches. Remember, there is not a lot of depth in this vintage bullpen. They had 6 pitchers pitch on Wednesday. Gave up a lot of runs, a lot of pitches, a lot of batters. Manager Anderson is not going to want to pull his ace until he has to. The senior Clark in a big spot for Petaluma. He takes a strike. The senior has not played a lot of baseball, at least with the bat, mostly been used as a pinch runner. Only 1 hit on the year. That misses outside, 1-1. It's just 1 for 2 with an RBI and 2 plate appearances. Does have 2 stolen bases as a pitch runner. Didn't even play baseball last year. Played as a sophomore on JV. As he lines this one foul. 1-2. The Trojans keep the line moving with the bases loaded. Their best chance of the day. A 1-2 coming from Wood. He goes low and fouls it off. Nice piece of hitting by Clark to stay alive. Clark narrowly again getting a piece of it. Exceptional piece of hitting by the senior to stay alive here. Will he get a good pitch to hit now? captain of the varsity basketball team, no stranger to pressure, and takes outside. He struck out. Wood gets out of it with the bases loaded. Only 1 run scores for Petaluma, and trailing by 7. That's got to hurt. The good news for Petaluma is they do get a run across, and they got some hits going too. Finally got to Wood, and we'll see if they're able to use that in the upcoming innings to get anything more going. Still 9 more outs to work with for the Trojans. 6 runs is going to be a lot of runs to come back for, but you certainly can't rule anything out here on a Friday afternoon where the Trojans have some big hitters and opportunities to do something with. "7-1 the score if you're just joining us here as we move up to the top of the 5th. Vintage has really played exceptional baseball today. Big credit to them, but the Trojans have also looked down in the dumps for a lot of the day. They've really struggled, looked off balance batting until that last inning. Garahan had a rough day, and fielders have been unable to come up with big plays. But for Vintage, they've been dialed in with the bat, finding places to hit the ball, placing them well. They fielded well, and Wood until that last inning was exceptional, keeping the Trojan bats really off balance. O'Hagan will get another inning of work here in the 5th, and it'll be interesting to see if he can settle in a little bit more, have more control. He was really thrown into the fire in that 4th inning. The first pitching as a varsity pitcher in a rough moment with the bases loaded, walked after giving up a base hit, walked 2 in a row, and then a nice play by Gallagher to throw out a runner to finally end the threat. But for Petaluma, you gotta hope O'Hagan's better because the Trojans don't have really anyone else right now in the bullpen to go to. All right, weren't able to hear me. Now you're able to hear me. So you saw Dan O'Hagan throw that bounce back over the head of Garrett Lewis and into the Vintage dugout. Koargura gets the second. And what should have been 1 out and nobody on instead turns on to a runner on second. The afternoon just gets worse for Petaluma. Big swing and a miss by Josen, who scored last inning. Oh, 2. That was only the 0-1, so now it's 0-2. Vintage team came in only a .299 slugging percentage. Only that one ground ball to third. Brown able to get it. This is an impossibly long throw. He can't even make it, and Koargura goes to third. Vintage came into today only reaching base 36% of the time. They've done an exceptional job of hitting, reaching, being patient, finding pitches to hit, and making Petaluma make mistakes. the tune of 7 runs so far, and now threatening to make it more is Ian Avalos getting ready. And O'Hagan frustrated on the mound, should have had 1 out, and now runners on the corners and still nobody out. Some words with the umpire. Pinch hitter will be at first base, where Logan Notham pinch hitting for Josen. First pitch to Avalos is a big swing and a miss. He's picked up where he left off on Wednesday. 2 hits on Wednesday. Has another one so far today. It's our second baseball live stream of the year. Will not be our last. Continue to cover the team over the course of the year, as that's enough for a strike. Remember, it's actually the penultimate home game of the season for the Trojans, at least in the regular season. Their only remaining home game will be on May 3rd against Justin Siena. The Trojans will hope to get some revenge against the Braves. It'll be senior day for the 6 Trojan seniors. This is outside, 1-2. Trojans have a lot of games on the road, both in league and a couple more non-conference games, along with the Boris Classic next week. We'll also try to make it on the road, maybe for a game or two. If the Trojans are an 8 seed or higher in NCS, we'll be right here, bring you the NCS playoffs. Avalos swing and a miss. Gallagher gives an attaboy to O'Hagan, who strikes out his first batter, and there's 1 down. Jake Whipple, hoping to keep things going for the Crushers, batting .294 on the season. Ground ball, suicide squeeze, out at the plate. Nice job by O'Hagan. The suicide squeeze does not really work out for the Crushers. The runner from first goes to third, and Whipple goes to first, but in the end, you're in the exact same spot you were previously, and now there's 2 outs. Well, good job by O'Hagan throwing right to home on the suicide squeeze, and Gallagher applying the tag just in time. First pitch in there for a strike. 0-1 to Alex Dezod. Had a big hit. Feels like everyone on this Crushers lineup has gotten a big hit today. Tune of 7 runs. Trying to come through with 1 more. Little ground ball to Brown. This is going to be a tough play. In time. Nice play by Lewis to grab it. His foot looked like it might have been off the bag, but the ump will give the out either way. And now they're going to overrule it. So all the Trojan players were walking into the dugout, and now they're going to have to come back out. I think the ump pandered to the crowd a little bit there. It probably was the correct call, with Lewis trying to make the stretch. Don't think he was able to reach the bag there, but he called it out, and then hearing the entire Crushers dugout, who had a good view of it, and their fans erupt, decided to overrule the decision. Coach Salvatella heads back to the dugout in frustration. So a run comes home to make it 8-1, 2 outs, and now runners on first and second, and that has to hurt. Felt like the inning was over. You're nearly walking to the dugout, especially if you're O'Hagan, and now you have to stay out there even more. popped up. Out of play down the first baseline. Fouled. Back and out of play. Oh, 1. Oh, 2 on the leadoff hitter, Hammerlin, is 4th at bat already. This one line into left. Racing back is Clark, looking up, leaping and unable to make the catch. 1 run scores. Here comes the second on the relay. Gallagher's tagged him out. The inning is over, and kind of a stare down between Gallagher and Dizad. They're still kind of looking at each other. The ump going over to make sure nothing more happened between those two. And Dizad look one more time at the Trojan bench. Someone said something from the Trojan bench that didn't make the ump happy. And just kind of a hard tag by Gallagher, and Dizad running hard, even though he's obviously going to be out. Either way, though, the hard base hit to the warning track by Hammerlin adds 1 more run to make it 9-1. An important call there by the umpire to add 2 more runs to the total for Vintage. And they extend the lead. It is 9-1 as we head to the bottom of the 5th. Well, the Crushers' bats have really been unrelentless in this game. They just keep on fighting and finding ways to get hits. And for the Trojans, it's been rough, especially with O'Hagan, who really has not gotten much experience at the varsity level. And he has been uncomfortable, I think, out there for a lot of this game, especially the way these Vintage bats have been hanging in there. 11 runs on Wednesday, and they are really just on fire. There's only been 1 easy inning. It was the second inning. It was a 1-2-3 inning. Every single other inning for Vintage has involved base runners and been stressful for Petaluma. Bertolucci will lead things off for Petaluma. The lead now 8. Looks to lay down the bunt, pulls it back. It's been a painful afternoon for the Purple Pinstripes. Ground ball right past the mound and past the diving second baseman. Bertolucci reaches with a leadoff base hit. It skidded off the side of the mound. Wood unable to get it, and Gisletta could not haul it in at second. Back to the top of the order with Wolbert, who has a base hit today, and see if the Trojans can continue finding ways to get some hits. Did a good job on the 4, scoring 1 run on 4 hits and a walk. As Wolbert lines this first pitch high into center. But an easy catch made, 1 down. Brown will dig in. He had a base hit last inning, and he's the only run so far for Petaluma in this game. More action in the Trojan bullpen. So Hagen's day appears to be done. Zarko has not pitched much, just 1 appearance, but it looks like he might get number 2. Jacobs unloads on this first pitch. A long run in right, making the catch, 2 down. It's always really the hardest part of this ballpark to play in right in the afternoon. The trees providing a lot of shadows. We've seen a lot of players have some adventures out there. Cole Klemenok for Casa, and the Trojans 5-3 victory over the Gauchos. Had 2 errors in the first innings. Trojans scored all 5 runs in their victory over the Gauchos in that game. Missed that one, which was a lot more fun than this one. That's on our YouTube channel. Two down, 1 on, 9-1 as Sam Brown digs in. First pitch in there for a strike, and Wood continuing his yeoman's work. Low, and that will get away from the catcher. Bertolucci will jog down to second to go into scoring position. It's not the only game today here happening across the Vine Valley. Casa facing Napa. The Gauchos are currently beating up all over the Grizzlies, who have just 1 win on the season, bizarrely against Vintage. This one lined up the middle. Base hit. Bertolucci's going to come around to score until he falls at third. Now it's going to be, well, not too much of a problem. Bertolucci trips, rounding third on what's still a pretty damp grass that's suffered from all the rain over the last couple months. It's 9-2 on the RBI base hit by Brown, and at least everyone can have a laugh in the Trojan dugout. Trojan bats have finally gotten going here, but unless it becomes a full-on explosion, it's going to be too little too late. Gallagher had a hit in the 4th as he fouls that off. Justin Siena will play Sonoma Valley tonight at Arnold Field. But if the Trojans lose here, the Dragons will open up a 2.5 game lead for first place in VVAL at the halfway mark. American Canyon playing Benicia today in a non-league game. That misses low from Wood, 1-1. 2-1. Trojans got a run across last inning. Have scratched across another here. At 9 runs given up, by far the most this season. Errors, poor pitching, walks. It's been a disaster on that end. This is low. 3-1. Good patience by the senior captain, Gallagher. Fun guy to be around. Good leader here at Petaluma High School and just in general. And there for a strike. Loads the count. I think manager Anderson for Vintage hoping he can ride his senior ace all the way through, especially they have another game tomorrow. The Christian Brothers tourney in Sacramento. Payoff pitch is a line drive in left. Or in right. Lost my sense of direction. The catch is made. And the side is retired. Trojans get 1 more run. Strand 1, and that is all. We move on to the 6th inning. It's all Vintage this afternoon. They lead 9-2. Crushers have 2 games, in fact, tomorrow. They play Whitney of Rockland. And they follow that up facing the host Christian Brothers in Sacramento. Vintage here in control over Petaluma, with this game turning into a blowout. A lot of other interesting things going on in Petaluma athletics, and I decided with the Trojan Tribune and with Trojan Live to kind of take a look at Trojan athletics from a greater scope. And one of the interesting things is always the coaches, and specifically coaching stability, which has become such a big issue, I think, in high school athletics over the last couple of years, or this century especially, just with the new age of high school athletics and how it functions. It's been an unfortunate frequency of coaches leaving positions, not stability being really hard in a lot of programs. We've seen Petaluma's Crosstown rival Casa Grande have a rotating door of football coaches, basketball coaches. They've had a couple baseball coaches. It's going to be hard to hold on to your coaches for a variety of reasons. People retire. People want to start families. There's a lot of other commitments club-wise. High school doesn't pay much, if anything, now. So if you're not really working on campus, you're not going to likely be holding a position for long term unless you're really committed to the program. But the interesting thing is Petaluma has really had coaches that have consistently been there for them day in and day out and had a lot of consistency and stability. Mario Zarco is entered for Petaluma at pitching. Side armor, righty. Is it up? He's facing Phipps again, who's had a nice day. Zarco, just his second appearance of the season. So that's fouled off again. Just pitched 1 inning, walked 2, and allowed 1 hit with no runs. A sophomore. A lot of Trojans getting some extra work. The 0-2 from the sophomore. This one is chopped foul. Talking about coaches, Jim Salvatella, part of that stability. He's third year. He's 43 and 23 overall. Had a lot of success. Before that, Paul Cochran was the coach here for 10 years for Petaluma. Dan Fager before that for a very long time before he passed away. Trojans have had long-term coaches in baseball, football. Obviously, it's been 2 coaches in the last 30 years, and Rick Christ and Steve Ellison as Phipps strikes out. The Trojans really in the 6 major sports that you look at, volleyball, football, boys and girls basketball, baseball, and softball. They've only had, in the last 4 years, I've been here as a senior at Petaluma High, only had 2 coaching changes in all those positions, including the new firing in boys basketball. Scott Bear's leaving after 4 years. Really been the only program that hasn't had stability, and we've seen the benefit of stability too, the wrestling program especially. Coach Paul Schlosser misses low. 1-1. Zarco kind of fell over on the mound. We've seen some footing issues. He's going to do some maintenance to try to clean himself up. Kurt Janstow, another principal example of softball team, 25 years as the head coach there. This one is ripped way back in left. Another home run for the Crushers. They are crushing balls out of here. That one was gone as soon as it was hit. Dava DiMagano, what an afternoon for him. A run, a double, a single, a home run. All he needs is a triple to complete the cycle. And the man with the Italian name might be good enough to play baseball for the Italian national team, if nothing else. It is 10-2. The solo shot off Zarco. That one was blasted. Clark barely even moved when that was hit. This one is driven. Clark going back again, but he will make the catch at the warning track. The vintage bench thought they had just hit back-to-back home runs. They nearly exploded. These Crushers bats are locked in. My goodness. The lead is back to 8 here in the 6th. Luke Leachman's going to pinch hit here for the Crushers. Talking about the coaching stability, and the question I really wanted to find out, why has Petaluma been able to find the coaching stability and other schools haven't? And talked to Giovanni Napoli, the vice principal here at Petaluma High School, and a head athletics administrator, and it's in there for a strike. to Leachman. The key is really the approach that Petaluma Athletics take, the administration preaches, and how they hire. As that one skips off the mound, Zarco can't get it. Charging in is Jacobs to make the throw. Nice stretch by Lewis. The side is retired. 1 run is scored on the massive bomb by the Italian Italian third baseman for the Crushers to make it 10-2 as we move to the bottom of the 6th. We're talking about the stability, and it's really that approach. Giovanni Napoli talked about it. It's first, not the wins and losses are obviously important, and you want wins and losses, but it's really focusing on the player development part and really working with the fundamentals, but also just working with people as people. And Napoli talked a lot about, he thinks if you develop all of your players as people, work to find that chemistry and make them leaders in the community, on the field, and as people that have great fundamentals, the wins and losses really will come with that. And that's secondary too, in that, you know, a program like girls lacrosse that really is never won here at Petaluma High School, it just focuses on the fundamentals and developing those players, and they're okay with that. They're not going to fire coaches based on struggling to win and lose, and that's led to that stability because the coaches are really comfortable. They've bought into programs, and there isn't the pressure on them to win and lose. They can develop players, and I think that's the most rewarding part of being a coach, being able to develop a player, see them improve, seeing them improve both as a player and as a person. Get involved in the community, go to college. You know, high school athletics are so often about learning teamwork, communication, being a team, whether in life, on the diamond, pitch. And some of these players will obviously, such as Garrett Lewis, who's leading it off, go on to play at a higher level, but others, it's, you know, you're never going to play at the higher level, especially here at Petaluma, where athletics aren't as competitive as other areas of the country, such as the Central Valley or even the Napa Valley. I would say Vintage has exceptional sports teams. Not to say that their approach is wrong or anything, but a lot of Trojans aren't going to go on to play at the higher level, so development of the fundamentals as a person and as a player and just learning it for life are important. 1-1 on Lewis. Wood continues his work. And also important to look at, you know, how they build the school overall. Lewis fouls this one back out of play. 1-2. Athletic director for the Trojans and head football coach Rick Chris talked a lot about want the players to really give back to the community, be active in the community and the school. Lewis able to do a nice job fouling it off. It is 10-2 if you're just joining us. I know it says 0 on the scoreboard, but either it does not accustom for double digits or they have just not realized it yet. But Vintage has 10 runs, not 0. Lewis went around. He struck out. 1 down. Jacobs will dig in. The Trojans trying to complete an 8-run comeback. Miracles have happened before, but this would be a big one. Some new balls being delivered first. Chris really referenced the wrestling program and the values that they espouse to the community of camaraderie, teamwork, hard work. And a wrestling team that was dormant, didn't do much, didn't have many accomplishments, wasn't known, really garnered respect across the wrestling community as a school for the type of people that they built. A lot of the senior class that's graduating this year, people like Connor Pedersen, Tony Vitale, Colton Prieto, are great people that espouse all those values you want as an athlete and as people, and they really brought that to the school, I think, and the other things they're involved in. And the wrestling program is something Petaluma is so proud about here. VVAL champions this year. It's Brown. Jacobs. Check swing foul. The badminton team was something interesting. Both Napoli and Chris also referenced. The two coaches really committed, worked at the school, which helps a lot. Trojans hire a lot of coaches that work here at the school more than others, and that really makes sure they're committed. They bleed purple. all those factors, the approach, the hiring factor. They look for coaches that are willing to build the fundamentals, really be teachers, be committed to the school, not focused on a travel team. It helps with that stability, and in the long run, stability is going to help with wins. And inevitably, with the wrestling program, badminton teams had great success this year. Baseball team, obviously, lots of success with their stability. Helps with wins. Jacobs flies out to right. And there is 2 down with nobody on. As Mike England is going to pinch hit for Petaluma, the senior. First pinch hitter of the day. Hoping to get some extra hacks in here for the Trojans as they build their way back towards the Big Boris tournament next week. It's definitely one of the highlights of the year for this team. They'll play some of the top teams in California. It's really the de facto state championship. The winner of the Northern California tournament and the winner of the Southern California tournament play each other in May. A game that will be broadcast on ESPN3. And the winner is deemed the state champion because there's no state championship tournament for baseball. Season ends after sections. NCS for both Petaluma and Vintage. (2-0) to England. Big swing and a miss. England drives this one into right. Racing and diving and trapping the ball below him is the Vintage right fielder. Unable to come up with it was Phipps. A good effort, but England reaches on the pitch hit, and the parade of pinch hitters will continue as Ochoa, the Trojan ace, gets a chance with the bat with 1 on and 2 out. Named Ocho, the sophomore, had his worst outing as a pitcher on Wednesday, and the Trojans lost to Justin Sienna. It's helped continue the struggles for Trojan pitching the last 2 games. Hitting 167 so far this year. He was called up for JV for that Boris tournament. You wonder, with the lack of Trojan pitching depth, if they're going to call someone up from the JV team to help with 4 games in 3 days. They're going to have to play in Sacramento. Ball gets by the catcher. England to second. Wood just continues to roll along here for Vintage. Trojans, especially the way O'Hagan looks. Zarco's not looked amazing. Feels like they might need another relief pitch or even a starter potentially to go to the Boris with them. Like Ochoa was called up last year. They knew he had the talent, and it paid off, too. He had a couple big starts. Had a complete game shutout against Annalee last year. A regular season game, which clinched the SCL title. 2-1 from Wood. And there for a strike, 2-2. Jammed foul. Our next live stream coming up in a week and a half. The softball team taking on Casa Grande. The first leg of the softball Egg Bowl. Girls softball team, nice performance yesterday. They defeated Vintage 8-1, a comfortable victory. They lost 2 straight games last week. We're a little concerned for them, but they were able to get out of their rut. Blew out Justin Sienna on Tuesday, and then nice victory over a good Vintage team. They are in a 4-way tie for first place at the halfway mark of VVAL. It's going to be a wild second half of the Vine Valley Athletic League for softball. Should be a lot of fun. Ochoa chases the high cheese, and now he's mozzarella. On to the 7th we go. It's Vintage 10, Petaluma 2. So Vintage in control here, 10-2. Zarko goes back out for work, and for Petaluma, 3 straight losses. It's their longest losing streak of the year. Well, we'll have interviews after the game. Be interesting to see where this Petaluma team is mentally and emotionally with this rough stretch and how they think they can turn it around, because they are clearly struggling right now and they're not playing their best baseball, and that happens over the course of the year. It's warranted, and it's good to face the adversity, but you want to get out of it sooner rather than later. For NCS seeding, for VVAL, they need to, and especially with the Boris tournament. Scouts are there. Major League Baseball scouts will be scouting some of these young, talented players for Petaluma that can play at that level. You want them performing and impressing, or things could get ugly next week at Sac State for the Boris tournament, which starts Tuesday. Petaluma will open up against Pleasant Valley of Chico. They could actually face Casa Grande again. They faced the Gauchos last year. The Gauchos are in the tournament. They could face them on day 3. They are in the same bracket, but the other quarter of the same side of the bracket. It'll be interesting to see if those two teams could meet up again before they will face off in the regular season on May 7th. The penultimate game of the regular season at Casa. That game rescheduled from a couple weeks ago. The Gaucho Diamond was unplayable. Trojans only have one more home game left in the season. It's Senior Day against Justin Siena. That's our final scheduled live stream of the year, but any NCS games will be there. Zarko's first pitch misses outside. This is Logan Nothman digging in. Trojans after the Boris tournament. Another non-conference game rescheduled from the early season rain at Maria Carrillo. They're at American Canyon to resume VVAL play next day at Serra in San Mateo. Serra, they beat them last year when they were ranked 3rd in the state. The best victory of the year last year for Petaluma. Serra not as highly ranked, but it'll be a challenge. So Northam fouls that off. Trojans will be at Sonoma Valley on May 1st. That could be a massive game with VVAL title implications. For the Justin Siena game, they're at Bella Vista in Sacramento. That's a rescheduled game as well. It's a Saturday before they wrap things up against at Casa and at Vintage. And then NCS starts May 15th on Wednesday. Vintage currently projected 16th in the same division, but the way they're playing right now, they're going to be rising up the ranks. This team is coming together here. Now it says 9-2. They double digits, I guess, do not work on the scoreboard, but it's 10-2. Vintage leading by 10. The 0-2 awaiting from Mario Zarko, the sophomore. This is high. It's an interesting throwing motion, kind of sidearm by the sophomore, definitely unique. Troy Gacetta's had a nice day, digs in. He had a RBI base hit to start things off all the way back in the first inning for Vintage. Got them out to a 1-0 lead. They added 3 more in the 3rd, including a 2-run bomb. 3 more to chase the starter, Julian Garahan, in the 4th, including a couple errors by Petaluma. Brought in Dan O'Hagan, who struggled with his control. Walked a few. Really, by the 4th inning, the game was done when Garahan was chased. Brought the total to 6-0. Petaluma was retired 10 batters in a row all the way until the bottom of the 4th when they snuck across run, but left the bases stranded. That's fouled off. And Vintage just continued hitting. Added 1 more in the 5th, and then a massive home run in the 6th. That made it 10-2. Trojans scratched across another run in the bottom of the 5th. That is where we stand now at 10-2 Vintage. Takes low. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We're reaching 8 viewers as we reach prime time on the East Coast. Big weekend in the sporting world with the NBA playoffs. starting tomorrow. The NHL playoffs already underway. Takes low, just let it walks. It's a big afternoon as well for Trojan sports. Boys lacrosse team is in Napa tonight, taking on Justin Siena. It's a must-win for Petaluma if they want a VVAL title, coming off a bad loss to Casa on Wednesday, blown out by the talented Gauchos. Justin Siena, third in league. Trojans kind of worried about it. They feel like it's a letdown game. Might not be focused facing a very talented Braves team that nearly got the upset on the Trojans. Petaluma won 6-5 back here at Ellison Field. 7:30 start in Napa tonight for the boys lacrosse team. It's fouled off out of play. Whipple fouls it off. 1-1. Runners on first and second and just one out. Girls lacrosse team is in Santa Rosa taking on Cardinal Newman. Trying to turn things around. It's been a rough season for them. Lined up the middle. Here does not come another run. The bases are loaded as Northam holds it first. And the Crushers just have no mercy. They continue to hit. Scored in every single inning with the exception of the second inning. Manager Salvatella coming on out to talk to the sophomore Zarco to try to limit things and just not help this game not get too ugly. Puts the hand on the shoulder of the young pitcher. We've seen two sophomores and a junior pitch today for Petaluma. It's a young pitching corps, and their struggles have been real the last 3 games after such early dominance. Golf team had a nice performance yesterday for Petaluma. Finished second at the VVAL tournament, 5th one of the year. The Rooster Run Golf Club right here in Petaluma. I think a little home cooking helped. Playing on your home course, so important. Trojans finished second, highest they'd finished. They'd finished everywhere from 3rd to 6th so far this year. But beat Casa. The only team they were behind was Vintage, who's Crusher fans tune in, know how good their boys golf team is. They're going to win a VVAL title easily. Crushers have really been the best athletic program in the VVAL this year, especially in terms of league pennants. Won a league pennant in football. Gonna win one in boys tennis. Gonna win one in boys golf. Won one in boys soccer as this one is popped up. Jacobs makes the catch. Now runners advance. Bases stay loaded. Ethan Hammerlin leads things up. His 5th at-bat for this game. The reason this game has gone so long, it's been Vintage just continuing to hit, and the Trojans struggling to scrape together outs. 2 down. They only need 1 more this afternoon before they'll get a weekend to rest up and lick their wounds. Trojans started off this year 2 straight losses they struggled to hit. Went on a 7-game tear where they couldn't lose. Nothing was even close. But now they're going to drop 3 in a row as the pitching has been the issue for Petaluma these last 3 games. 6 runs given up. Gave up 4 runs in 3 innings, in 2 innings on Wednesday. And now 10 runs given up today. Lined up the middle. Jacobs way over the course of the bag. What a throw on his back foot to get the runner. That's 2 down, so 1 more comes to score. It's 11-2. Nice play by Jacobs just to get 1. Exceptional fielder, the second baseman. Big day for the senior captain, Max Phipps. Manager calls him the vocal leader on the team, and see why he's come through both with the bat today. And certainly you've heard the vintage dugout throughout the game has been energized, focused. They've came in losing 3 of 4, doesn't matter. Drive deep into left. Clark going back, making the catch, looking up into the sun. Nice job there. And the side is mercifully retired. Vintage adds one more run. It is 11-2. Last calling card for the Trojans as we move to the bottom of the 7th. All Vintage here today is Petaluma is going to fall likely in this one unless miracles happen here in the bottom of the 7th. I want to thank you for tuning in to our live stream this afternoon. If you missed any of the game, it is all right here up on our YouTube channel for Prosperity, and we'll be continuing to cover Petaluma baseball, softball, lacrosse has some big games coming up, so continue staying tuned to our YouTube channel. We're really going to be increasing our spring sports coverage as we come to a business end for all the spring sports, and looking forward to seeing which teams can potentially bring home a league pennant. The baseball team's still hoping for one, but they are really put in a tough spot after losing this game to fall to now 3-3 in league. The softball team is still right there, hoping to win another league title, and they got so much talent on that softball team. They are one of the funnest teams to watch here at Petaluma High School, but a lot of the athletic programs battling hard here for spring sports and hoping that they can either take home a league pennant or make people proud. The boys lacrosse team still in contention to do something potentially, still in 2nd place after their loss to Casa Grande last week. New pitcher for Vintage is Woods Day is done, 6 innings, 2 runs. Scattered just 5 hits. What a game he had. Jake Whipple will pitch for Vintage, the junior pitcher. This is his 5th appearance. He has a 3.0 ERA. He's 0-1, 4.2 innings pitched. Batters are reaching 42% of the time against him. Vintage used 6 pitchers on Wednesday, and their 16-10 loss to American Canyon. It's been a lot easier today for them. That game must have taken 3 hours, though, with all those runs. Hasn't been that bad today, but it has been a lengthy one. I want to thank TJ Fife for his work on camera today. Done a nice job. Don't have too many more live streams left in the season. It's starting to get seniors honored, scholarship awards are coming up. It reminds you the year's almost done. It blew by fast, but halfway through April now, the PEF scholarships awarded. Many Petaluma High School seniors, Casa Grande and St. Vincent's as well on Wednesday night. Always a great event. It's fouled off by a new hitter for the Trojans. Pinch hitter Ethan Wilson, senior, 5'9", 130 pounds, just his 4th plate appearance. He has no hits yet on the year. Picks low. Not only Wednesday night saw a lot of cash handed out, a lot of Petaluma High School seniors, but up in Santa Rosa, it was the Press Democrat Celebrate Community Youth Service Awards for high schoolers across Sonoma County, and the Trojans got a winner for the first time in 2 years. Congratulations, Lucas Cheetah. Took home 1st place for his exceptional work in agriculture, his community service. Out of 11 students nominated from schools across Sonoma County, his work was deemed the best, the most influential, and he takes home $2,000 from the Press Democrat and Sonoma Media Group. Used for college. He's headed to Montana State next year to continue his work in the agricultural field. Really a moving story, the work he did during the Sonoma County wildfires. A year and a half ago, a lot of livestock had to be evacuated. Much of it was kept at the Petaluma Fairgrounds during the fires. As Wilson is hit. And out of the graciousness of his heart and good community service, Cheetah went to the fairgrounds and just cared for the farm animals, make sure they were doing well. Their owners might have not even been there, and obviously many of them dealing with their houses being burned down or at least evacuated. Cheetah also helped with Petaluma FFA fundraising, had a community toy drive for kids that lost their toys in the Sonoma County wildfires. Just a great member of this Petaluma High School community. Really shows the great work that Petaluma FFA does here at Petaluma. Fundraisers they do, serve the community. It's not just farming and agriculture. They're really a great part of this community. Mark Wolbert fouls this one off the roof of the E-wing. So Whipple's getting in some work. See some more seniors honored over the next month. Senior recognition night in about a month from now at the Lucchese Community Center. Also have the nominate. Petaluma recently nominating their athletes for Press Democrat Scholar Athlete and Athletes of the Year. The best senior athletes, Petaluma, they'll be honored next month in Santa Rosa's. Wolbert has popped this up to left. Routine catch. One down. We have indeed lost the feed. All right, you've lost field cam, so we're going to switch to another camera. As Joe Brown digs in here for Petaluma. First pitch low. Throw back to first. Not in time. Brown has had a nice day today for Petaluma. Had a base hit. He's made some valiant efforts at third. It just hasn't worked out for him. This is outside. 2-0. Mentioning the athletes of the year as that misses low. Whipple struggling to find his control right now. 2 athletes of the year, Connor Pedersen, wrestling, first wrestler to go to state. The boy this decade, what a career he's had. And Tessa Lambert, the MVP defender for the girls soccer team this year. She's not playing in college, but she could. Was just brilliant defensively for Petaluma, but she also can score. She had one of the most memorable goals of the season for the Petaluma girls soccer team, the free kick goal in the NCS championship game, as that's fouled back right towards me. 3-2. Petaluma would go on to lose that NCS semifinal game, but Lambert's goal brought it to penalty kicks, and the senior leader, 4-year varsity player for the VVAL girls soccer team that did not lose all the way to the NCS semifinals. Pedersen and Lambert very deserving of the top athletes, and now they go up against players from other schools. This is driven into left, ranging over and making the catch. 2 down. Oh, Brown, the last hopes for Petaluma as they trail by 9 runs. And good news for the junior, he did get a base hit on the 6th. He's been in such a slump, and he was frustrated after lining out earlier. He was finally able to find a base hit. Stay tuned after the game. We'll have live interviews with the players and the manager of the Trojans, Jim Salvatella, to get their thoughts after this one. Worst loss so far of the season for Petaluma. Brown drives this one into left. This should be extra bases. Hustling to third is Wilson. And Brown suddenly has a 2-hit day. So a nice day for Sam Brown. All of a sudden, came in only 5 hits and now has 2 today. Gallagher will dig in, trying to keep the line moving. Brown has some hand maintenance to do before we start. Gallagher also has a hit today. One of those seniors. It's reaching the end of your career in a purple and white jersey. It's be emotional when you start to think about it. Misses low. It gets away from the catcher. Here comes Wilson. He will score with ease. Brown goes to third. That's run number 3 for Petaluma. And the lead is cut to 8. (11-8). The scoreboard cannot accommodate double digits. I did not anticipate the Trojans were going to struggle this much from the mound. They also did not anticipate the capacity of vintage bats. That catches the outside corner. Whipples back into it, 2-1. Misses low. Nice stop by the vintage catcher in Josen. These teams will play again the final game of the VVAL season, May 8th, in Napa. Could be a lot on the line for this one. You know the Trojans are going to want some revenge. Second chance with these Crushers. Gallagher fouls it off. It's 2-2. Some words for Whipple as the ump hands him the ball. The sun slanting low in the sky on this beautiful Friday afternoon. There is no rain in the imminent forecast, which is good for all sports. And the fields have been so wet. So many cancellations. Trojans barely got any games in the first month of the season, and it has left things very backloaded and also everything on the road. They managed to get their home games in because their diamond's been in good shape, but others haven't. Gallagher drives this one into left. Here comes Brown to score. It's 9-4. Well, the Trojan bats have finally gone going in these latter innings, as Gallagher made excellent contact with that. How long, though, can they keep this going to make the vintage fans start to sweat? It is 11-4. The deficit is 7. Garrett Lewis digs in, 2 out, 1 on. Misses low, gets away from the catcher, and Gallagher can jog down to second. Well, if nothing else, gives the Trojans a little bit of confidence here to get their bats going. And only hit 243 this year, a major decrease from hitting 385 last year. Big part of it's been Trojans have struggled with extra base hits. Their slugging percentage only 295 compared to 453 last year. So Lewis fouls it off. You look at extra base hits, home runs. Trojans only have 1 home run this year compared to 15 home runs last year. And remember, we're halfway through the year. Extra base hits, Trojans have no triples. They only have 12 doubles. They had 71 doubles last year. They're about an eighth of that right now. It's in there for a strike. And even if when you are reaching, you want to hit for some power. And the Trojans really were a power-hitting team last year. They've lost that approach this year. Many of the similar hitters back, Lewis, Gallagher, Brown, just haven't had it this year. This one is popped high in the air. This should do it. A long run for the center fielder, so the second baseman makes it instead. That will do it here from Abbey Field as the Vintage Crushers get the victory. Final score, Vintage 11, Petaluma 4. The Crushers bats merciless today. They were up early and chased Garahan early. It was 6-0, essentially ended it. Trojans finally got their bats going in the latter innings, but way too little too late for Petaluma in the end of things, as they fall to 4-3 in VVAL and very much now in the middle of the pack in the Vine Valley Athletic League. Vintage moving their way back towards 500. They're 6-7 overall and now in 500 in league at 3-3. Stay right here. Interviews are coming up next.
down there tomorrow? Alright, I'll see you there. Alright. I might go over to the club. I might go grab Todd. Okay. Alright. See you then.
Oops. Testing. Test. Testing.
And then I'm going to need you to come back here and tell me that the audio's right.
So I just tested the mic. Who are you interviewing? Or you, Interlease?
We'll see.
Alright, sorry.
Their huddle could be a long talk. They're in a struggle right now, to say the least. Now you're probably able to hear me a little better. Oh. All right, now are they able to hear me? So they're able to hear me. All right. Trojans fall today 11-4 to Vintage. And just a rough game all around. They struggled to hit early, but pitching certainly a major concern. There's just not a lot of depth in this bullpen, and Garion didn't have his stuff today, and there was really no one to go to for Petaluma that they trusted. It just continued to give up runs, especially to a Vintage team that is really playing some electric baseball right now and hitting the ball well. And it's going to be concerned next week at the Boris for Petaluma. They got 4 games, 3 days, some of the top baseball teams in California, and they're going to have to find some way to figure out how to hit with all of that. It really could be a big challenge. Let's see how the Trojans adapt to it. Also, fielding, I think, has to be better for Petaluma. It wasn't was only one error today, but there were some plays that you really want to be made, especially when you don't have a lot of depth pitching-wise. You need to dive on the ground and come up with some of those balls, and right now Petaluma unable to do that, and a lot of the little things they didn't do well at all today. Hitting, Trojans did a nice job late in this game, but they really let Wood get into a rhythm, retire 10 batters in a row after the Trojans got the opening base hit, and from there things really went south on the pitching end. By the time they finally started hitting, they were down 6-0, and there was really no chance they were going to be able to get back in this game. Well, manager, the Trojans, Jim Salvatella, certainly with one of the rougher parts of his managing tenure in 3 years. This is his youngest team he's had in the last 3 years. I think talent-wise, you could argue it's the highest, but there are a lot of weak spots on this team. It'll be interesting to see how we can piece it together. Interviews we are going to grab right now, so stay right here. He's coming over now. In the interview right now, Coach? Interview right now? All right. I'm back here. All right, here with the manager of the Trojans, Jim Salvatella. A rough game today. Guys, didn't seem like you really had it in any facet of your game, and now 3 in a row. What's wrong right now with this team?
Just right now, things are not going our way, and it's a cliche, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on stuff. We'll get the Boris next week, and we're going to go ahead and battle. This is a game that when it's played over time, you're going to have days like this, and we're a good group of young men, and we're confident that they're going to work hard to straighten this stuff out. It's not going to be a lack of trying, because the coaching staff that we have are going to work on. We're going to go right back to fundamentals, get back to it so that we can go ahead and compete on every pitch, stay focused throughout the game. Today's game was one of those games when it started to get away from us early, and when that happens, you got to battle through that and try to limit the damage. Today, instead of 1 run, they got 3. Instead of 2 in an inning, they got 4. And so those are the things that, as you mature as a baseball player and the longer you play this game, you'll find that you're going to have innings and where balls are going to fall in, and you're going to battle through it.
How are you going to try to juggle the pitching staff going forward? You're so young, you're not very deep there, and now that there are some struggles and growing pains, what is your plan going forward with this rotation?
Well, you know what? You're right. There is some struggles and there is some growing pains, and through that is maturity. And these guys will learn. You can't go out there every time and have an outstanding game and just dominate. It's just not going to happen. So through adversity comes, the learning process. And so we are young. We do lack arms, and we're going into a 4-day tournament in Boris. We are going to be challenged. We were just talking about that. And with that, these guys all have to step up. You saw Zarko out there today. You saw O'Hagan out there today. And those guys did an outstanding job. And those are 2 guys that we're going to need, at the Boris. I know Sam Brown's going to do an outstanding job. I know Gavin Cho is going to do an outstanding job. And I know Julian's going to bounce back from this, and he's going to be fine. And then we have, Mark. And so we have guys that can go out and perform. We just don't have a lot of them.
Thank you, Coach. Best of luck at the Boris next week.
Thanks, man.
That was the head coach of the Trojans, Jim Salvatella. We're going to grab one more interview with a player in just a moment.
Who are you going to interview as well? Who are you interviewing then?
quick interview. And turn it up. Hold on. All right, Sam, that camera's not happy right now. Probably. Guess it depends how good it is. There we go. Okay. That should be good enough. All right. That'll kind of work. Can I zoom out more? All right, here with Sam Jacobs after Petaluma Falls to Vintage. Guys had a rough game now, 3 straight losses. Why is this team struggling right now after you guys had so much success?
Well, today we just kind of, they hit and we didn't really. I mean, it was that simple.
You guys got your bats going late. You had a couple hits. How do you guys make sure your bats are going a little bit earlier throughout the game, being more consistent?
Oh gosh, I'm really bad at thinking at the top of my head. I don't. You should probably interview someone else. I'm really bad.
We're live right now too, Sam. No, just you know whatever comes to you, you know.
Wait, repeat the question.
How can this team hit better earlier in games? Be a little bit more consistent at the plate.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I guess just trying to take better bats. I mean, dude, I'm so sorry.
You're one of the seniors on this really young team, especially because you're in a rough patch right now. How do you help lead the team, keep everyone's heads up?
Just try and stay positive, I guess. I mean, we're hoping this is like as bad as it gets. So we're a good team. We just need to kind of put it together.
You guys play a lot. It's a lot harder of a schedule than SCL last year. How do you think you benefit as a team over the course of the year from playing, good teams day in and day out, like the Vintage Crushers?
Well, it's better competition. It's just, dude, I can't even do this. I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
Yeah. Joe's being a little distracting. Yes. What is the benefit of playing better competition in VVAL than past years in SCL?
So better competition. I mean, it's more better competition.
All right, I think you're done, Sam.
Dude, I'm
all right,
so sorry.
it's all good. It wasn't that we were just live and we had 10 people watching, Sam. You're all good. All right, that's going to do it here from Petaluma High School. Thank you to TJ Fife for doing a nice job this afternoon. A rough day for Petaluma as they fall 11-4. They've dropped 3 straight. We'll see what they can do next week at the Boris tournament. They're going to be facing some of the top teams in Northern California. Our next live stream is in a week and a half. The girls softball team will take on Casa Grande in a big one. For everyone here at Trojan Live, I'm Griffin Epstein. So long from Abbey Field.